Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're doing an exciting video because I'm gonna be recommending you books to read. Yay! You've probably seen a lot of, if you like this book, you would like this book, and this is what I decided to do today. I have 7 pairs, 7 recommendations, some of them based on the plot similarities, some of them based on the writing similarities. I'll try to be convincing and explain you as the best ability as I can why I think you should read the other book if you like the first book. My first recommendation, if you like The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, you might like Replica by Lauren Oliver. I didn't particularly like any of these books. This book, in fact, I DNF'd, and this one was only 3 stars or so for me, so none of them I liked. Both of these books are YA, and both of these books have a sci-fi twist to them. This book follows a girl and there's like alien invasion, and she kind of has to like survive on her own, try to figure out what to do, and there's a lot of like her running away, trying to kind of survive, figure out who is safe, who is not safe to trust, and there's also a love interest of the boy. Their institution who creates replicas of people, and one of this replica, Lyra, runs away from this institution, and kind of the same thing. She's trying to survive, trying to figure out who she can trust. There's a love interest again. The plots of these books are very different. This is an alien invasion, and this is, you know, institution with replicas, and one of them just runs away. But if you like following this character, you might really like following these girls as well. I found that the writing is really similar too. It's very accessible, and if you know, a young teenager, you will like, and you like this one, you probably like this one. I feel like I'm like shipping people, but I'm not. I'm just recommending you books. It's weird. If you liked Illuminate by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, you may like Feed by Mira Grant. Both of these books, again, have some sci-fi twist to it. Here you're following a few teenagers, and they're in the space in a ship, and some stuff is happening. A disease breaks off on one of the ships, and they try to figure out what caused them and why is happening. The people are becoming like zombie-like and trying to kill other people, which becomes not safe. And also, it's a YA. Here, it's a YA as well. Feed follows, again, a group of teenagers who are in the middle of like zombie apocalypse, again a disease that they're not sure where it came from, and they have to kind of survive. But the reason I try to recommend you Feed based on Illuminate is because Illuminate is written in this files and like media and stuff, and Feed is focusing a lot on teenagers trying to report and have their own like podcast or something like this. They're trying to like have a newspaper that broadcasts to the world, and it's very important in this world to have this like media aspect. Also, Illuminate has 3 books and Feed has 3 books, so trilogy, both of them. I think if you like this one, you will like this one, but check it out. There is some zombies and there is some killings and stuff, but it's not such heavy as you would think. It's a pretty light zombie book, definitely not like Walking Dead or anything. We're starting with a lot of sci-fis because I know a lot of people love sci-fi, but disclaimer is that I didn't really like any of those books. Like I didn't give any of those 5 stars at the same things here. I recommend you, if you like Cinder, I don't have a copy, sorry. You may like Spare and Found Parts by Sarah Mary Griffin. I tried to read Cinder a few years ago, and I didn't click with the book. I DNF'd it, but I read like half through this, and I felt that it's there's a lot of sci-fi like mechanical part. There's a lot of like, because Cinder is about like a retelling of Cinderella, but her legs, like she's a half robot pretty much, and there's a lot of like mechanical stuff happening, and if you like that, you may like Spare and Found Parts. This one is about the girl whose father is in like mechanical hands and legs. She decides to create herself a friend from all of the different parts and puts it together, and stuff's happening. Also, love interest, love interest. I'm not sure if this is YA. It might be adult, but it does read like a YA. I gave this one 3 stars, and I said I didn't have Cinder, but if you like mechanical part, if you like girls that trying to like figure out stuff, these books were recommended to you based on the story and the plot or the characters. The second half of this will be based on the writing and the feeling I get from the authors as well. But they're similar genres, so don't you worry. If you liked A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Buckman, you will like Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom, or For One More Day by Mitch Albom. A Man Called Uwe is like a regular fiction about an old man. He's trying to figure out what he's gonna do with the situation. I feel like if I give you the plot or some elements of the plot, it's not gonna be as pleasant to read or surprising, even though it's not a mystery thriller or anything, but I feel like it's still really nice to go into this book not knowing anything. It's like a comic version of this man's life and his relationship with his neighbors, with his wife, a lot about like his past, and like you can learn a lot from Uwe and a lot of life lessons. He says a lot of good stuff, and this was just a very heartwarming, pleasant book to read that I gave 5 stars. And Mitch Albom writes the same like pleasant, warm stuff about relationship. Tuesdays with Morrie, it's a non-fiction actually, but it doesn't read any boring or anything, about Mitch Albom interviewing a guy named Morrie, and it's like his story of life and a relationship with his students, his wife, with himself, and him getting over the disease that is gonna kill him eventually. And For One More Day is a story about this guy getting an opportunity to spend one more day with his passed away mother, and it's just a beautiful relationship between like this old man, but he still loves and cherishes his mom, and there's a lot of things get uncovered. Both of these authors telling you praise and cherish the time you have with your loved ones and try to make the most out of it. But I know that if you liked this, you might really like Mitch Albom as well, or vice versa. I had to include a fantasy recommendations for all of you fantasy lovers, so here we are. I'm sorry if it sucks, it probably does, and you probably read all of them, but I'm gonna recommend you anyway. If you like Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, you may like Carvel by Stephanie Garber. The reason for this recommendation is the writing. I was surprised that Carvel was written by another person and not Leigh Bardugo. This is a fantasy following like a chosen girl who is becoming the Sun Summoner. She has to like save Ravka, and it was still really good. I gave it like 4 stars. It's again a fantasy, YA fantasy that follows the girl who is trying to save her sister, and she's like the chosen one to save her sister, and her sister's the chosen one of the game, and so there's a lot of like, I'm the chosen one. I found that Alina Starkov is much more pleasant to follow than Scarlet, because Scarlet's super annoying, but honestly the writing is so similar, and if you like that about Shadows and Bone, might enjoy Carvel. Don't promise that, but there you have it, a fantasy recommendation from me. And the next recommendation we're gonna give to you is a horror recommendation, and it was added at the last moment, at the last second, because if you liked It by Stephen King, you will like The Chalkman by C.J. Tudor. The writing of C.J. Tudor honestly so similar to Stephen King. If even Stephen King himself blurbed it and said, if you like me, if you like my writing, you will like this book as well, and I totally agree. It follows, you know, a group of kids, and they see this monster, this clown who hunts them, and they grow up, and you see both timelines between them being teenagers, trying to figure out, and them being adults and still fighting that pure evil. And this one, there are 2 timelines between them being kids, a group of kids with one girl, like 4 boys with 1 girl. Like such cliche setting, and them being grown up and again dealing with something that's happening. This is more like a mystery thriller than a horror, but there's still a lot of creepy stuff. So I would say this is like mystery thriller and horror. Well, this one is like pure horror. but honestly the writing is similar, the characters are similar, jumping between timelines, this like unknown what is happening kind of feeling isn't in both books. I highly advise you to check out The Chalkman if you like Stephen King horror or mystery thriller. Honestly, this is just, yes, it's good. If you liked You by Caroline Kepnes, and I know a lot of you guys, I recommended You, and some of you guys are like incredibly glad that you picked up You because of my recommendation. So hear me out. If you liked You, you may, and probably will, like I Can See in the Dark by Caroline Fossum. And I really talked about I Can See in the Dark because I read this book in 2017, and you know what? I still cannot stop thinking about this mystery. Incredible. The reason I paired them up, if you read them, they're really different, obviously, in everything. They're different in writing, they're different in plot, but the reason why I paired them up is because if you read it and if you watch the show, you know that Joe has something wrong with his head. Like, he's not normal, he's not a reliable character, something is working wrong, but he still feels and looks like a normal person. But you and I, we know something is messed up about this guy. The same thing I Can See in the Dark. We have unreliable main character who is, I wouldn't say like a bad person, but he does a lot of shocking things. And honestly, being in his head is just as satisfying as being in Joe's head. You don't know in both of those books who do you have to root for. Do you have to root for our main character? But we at the same time, we know he's bad and he's doing bad things, but we still cannot stop thinking of how incredible they are because of the way they think and act. If you're here for the writing, it's not gonna be that. The plot, it's not gonna be that. There's some stalking here, but it's not the main aspect of the book. So I honestly do recommend I Can See in the Dark. Yeah. And that, guys, concludes this video. This is all my recommendations. Please let me know in the comments down below if you read both of the books and if you agree with me or you disagree with me, and if you found any good recommendations that you want to check out. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next one. Bye!